The account loads. You've been awake since 5:52 a.m. Not because you had to be, because you couldn't stay asleep. You check the number before anything else. 1184美元. You already knew would be that. You still check. You run the math again. Rent in 9 days. Credit card in 12. Groceries, transport, minimum buffer. You don't think in months. Months are for people with margin. You think in sequences. Deposit, expense, gap. You optimize movement. You delay payments without triggering penalties. You stretch subscriptions just far enough. You learn which expenses can move and which ones can't. You don't invest. You don't allocate. You maintain position. At this level, money is not something you grow. It's something you survive. The first shift is not wealth. It's consistency. $48,000 a year. The deposits arrive on schedule. That alone changes your behavior. You stop checking your account every morning. You check it every few days. The anxiety doesn't disappear. It's spaced out. You allow small upgrades, better food, occasional convenience, a subscription you don't fully use. You open a savings account with intent. You move money into it. You watch it accumulate. And then something breaks. Car repair, medical bill, unexpected travel. 2 months of discipline disappears in a week. You don't react emotionally. You adjust. At this level, stability exists, but only until it's tested. You cross $85,000. Now you have structure. You track your expenses precisely. You categorize them. You optimize them. You learn the system. Tax brackets, employer matches, index funds, compounding. You start speaking the language of money. Not fluently, but enough to participate. Your environment shifts. People talk about growth, career moves, strategic decisions. You listen differently now. You begin to believe something important. That wealth is predictable. That if you follow the model, it will follow you. At this level, money becomes a system, and systems feel controllable. You reach $150,000. Your life looks complete from the outside. Better apartment, better location, better routines. You automate everything. Bills, investments, transfers. You remove friction from your life. And then something subtle happens. Your baseline moves. What used to feel expensive now feels standard. What used to feel like success now feels expected. You don't notice when it happens. Nobody does. Comparison recalibrates. You stop looking down. You stop looking far up. You look sideways. People like you. Same age. Same income. Slightly ahead. At this level, money becomes identity. You cross $300,000. Now you have margin. Not theoretical margin. Real margin. Mistakes don't collapse your system. They dent it. You start thinking differently. Not just income, equity. Not just compensation, ownership. You negotiate harder. You choose selectively. You begin to understand leverage. Not financial leverage. Positional leverage. Where you work. Who you work with. What you are exposed to. Time becomes visible. You calculate it. What is this hour worth? What does this decision look like in 5 years? At this level, effort and outcome begin to separate. You reach $1 million net worth. Nothing changes externally. No announcement. No visible shift. But internally, the system rewrites itself. You become conservative. Not cautious, intentional. You think about downside, exposure, volatility. You diversify, not to maximize return. To protect continuity, you stop chasing. You start filtering. Opportunities, people, commitments. At this level, wealth introduces selectivity. The second rule: wealth does not remove pressure. It relocates it. You cross $3 million. Your assets begin to matter more than your income. Income still exists. but it is no longer central. Your portfolio moves independently of your effort. Some days you make more from capital than from work. You don't celebrate that. You study it. You restructure tax strategies, asset location, jurisdictional efficiency. You interact with systems that were previously invisible. At this level, knowledge compounds faster than income. You reach $8 million. Your life separates. Not visibly, structurally. You don't need to work, but you continue because stopping creates a different problem. Identity. You upgrade your environment. Better advisors, better access, better information. You enter rooms you were not in before. Private deals, closed allocations, opportunities that don't circulate publicly. You realize something clearly. The best opportunities are never advertised. At this level, access becomes the asset. The third rule, proximity to opportunity, is more valuable than opportunity itself. You cross $20 million. Now you allocate. People bring you deals, structures, funds. You evaluate, not based on need, based on alignment. You think in portfolios of decisions, not individual outcomes. You sit in smaller rooms now, fewer people, higher stakes, less noise. Information arrives early, not dramatically, incrementally, but early enough to matter. You don't act on everything. You don't need to. At this level, patience becomes a competitive advantage. You reach $50 million. The system becomes quieter. You are insulated. Noise doesn't reach you the same way. Neither does urgency. You don't react. You position. You structure your holdings across entities, across geographies, across systems. Everything becomes intentional. You start seeing second-order effects. Not just what a decision does, what it enables next. At this level, outcomes are layered. You cross $100 million. You are no longer inside the system. You are part of what shapes it. Your capital moves with weight. When you enter, liquidity adjusts. When you exit, narratives form. You don't think in price. You think in impact. You sit on boards, advisory groups, committees without public records. You are closer to where decisions originate. At this level, proximity replaces analysis. The fourth rule, the higher you go, the less visible the system becomes. You move beyond that. There are no clean numbers here. Structures replace accounts. Family offices, funds, vehicles designed for continuity. Your wealth is distributed. You don't track balances. You track exposure. You don't optimize for return. You optimize for permanence. Time changes again. You stop thinking in years. You think in cycles. In decades, your network compresses. Fewer people, higher trust, greater consequence. You cannot step outside the system anymore. Not realistically. At this level, separation is theoretical. You are 70 years old, 45 years inside the structure. You've seen cycles repeat. Crises emerge, collapse, recover. New participants enter. Old ones disappear. The system remains. You no longer chase outcomes. You maintain position. You advise. You allocate. You influence indirectly. Your decisions are quieter now, but their reach is wider. You don't explain them. You don't need to. At this level, understanding is assumed. And somewhere, a person opens their banking app. 1184美元. They run the numbers. They calculate the gaps. They believe the system is linear. Effort in, reward out. They don't see the layers yet. They don't see how the rules change, how incentives shift, how each level rewrites the one below it. But they will. Everyone inside the system does. The balance updates. The deposit hits. And without announcement, without acknowledgement, the system moves forward.